So, from CNN, fluoride in drinking water poses enough risk to merit new EPA action, judge says. If you watched, I've made a video about the danger of fluoride in the water, reducing IQ before, like a week or two ago. And now in New York, a federal judge has ordered the US Environmental Protection Agency to further regulate fluoride in drinking water because high levels could pose a risk to the intellectual development of children. It says here US District Judge Edward Chen cautioned that it's not certain that the amount of fluoride typically added to water is causing lower IQ in kids, but he concluded that mounting research points to an unreasonable risk that it could be. He ordered the EPA to take steps to lower the risk, but didn't say what those measures should be. The judge's ruling is another striking dissent to a practice that has been hailed as one of the greatest public health achievements of the last century. Fluoride strengthens teeth and reduces cavities by replacing minerals lost during normal wear and tear, according to the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Last month, a federal agency determined with moderate confidence that there is a link between higher levels of fluoride exposure and lower IQ in kids. The National Toxicology Program based its conclusion on studies involving fluoride levels at about twice the recommended limit for drinking water. The EPA, a defendant in the lawsuit, argued that it wasn't clear what impact fluoride exposure might have at lower levels, but the agency is required to make sure that there is a margin between the hazard level and exposure level. And if there is an insufficient margin, then the chemical poses a risk, Chen wrote in his 80-page ruling Tuesday. Now, this is an article from 2018 from CNN. IQ scores are falling and have been for decades, new study finds. And again, just like the study I talked about before, they were saying how since 1975, I believe, there have been decrease in IQ rates, despite the fact that for a decade before, there's been an increase. And they're saying it's environmental factors and not the fact that people who have lower IQ are choosing to have more kids than those with higher IQ, because even within families there has been a noticeable drop. So they're not saying exactly what caused it, and I'm not implying that it's only fluoride in water, but I think that it is along the lines of it. So it's chemicals that we have in our water, in our food, perhaps even things that we have in the air that we didn't used to. Microplastics, for example. They're often in fabrics in your house, in the containers of your food, and so on and so forth. All of these problematic factors, environmental factors, chemicals, microplastics, and so on, weren't there before. And we are seeing a gross increase in chronic diseases and a decrease in IQ, and even starting now, last couple of years, a decrease in lifespan in Western nations. And it's good to see recognition from the Department of Justice now, from this judge, that there might well be a risk from these practices of putting chemicals into everything, because if things keep going the way they are, there's going to be a shortage of normal functioning people to just keep things afloat eventually. And I'm not talking 100 years from now. I think at the rate of increase that we are seeing right now, 20 years may well be it, or perhaps less. Very much within the lifespan of anyone who's not, within the 60s or 70s today. This is not a small problem, and it's not a simple problem. It's multi-layered, and also it touches on the interests of some of the most powerful companies in the world. Companies that create both your food, your medicine, the pesticides that goes into growing your food, and so on and so forth. The entire industry that deals with plastic containers for food and drink. Drinking from a plastic bottle is bad for you, according to some research, quite a bit of it, in fact. And so on and so forth. There is so much economic pressure to keep things as they are because it is easier, cheaper, and more easier to make a profit with, more profitable, to keep things as they are, to go with the flow. The entire system that we have now was created not out of ignorance, but out of greed and a desire for power. The second reason, in my personal opinion, is that yeah, the people in power want a people that is more lower IQ and less active and vigorous, because it is easier to rule over such people and they are less likely to hold you to account. I remember a line from the leaked Hillary Clinton emails, assuming that they are correct, about wanting a public that is ignorant and dumb. I can't say that I was surprised by it. I honestly can feel the contempt that those people in power have towards the plebes, normal people like us. And I honestly kind of feel like there's a Cold War. They call it the culture war. But really, I disagree with it. I don't think that there's actually two sides organically, grassroots sides that are engaged in a culture war right now between the left and the right. I feel as though there is a grassroots movement from the right, and then from the left, there is a movement that is dictated top down by the same people who control pretty much all of the health problems that we have and benefit from them. And they essentially just tell their side what to think and what to do through their control of the media, mostly. You suddenly have the same messages all over all of the mainstream news stations, late night shows, all say the same thing. All of the comedy shows, the rom-coms, they all push the same narrative simultaneously. And that's how the normies come to believe what they believe and to espouse the opinions that they do. So we really have a Cold War between the establishment, the elites, and the populace, with like less than half, in my opinion, but about half the populace being essentially brainwashed to support the elites. And that's my take on the culture war. And so these people are highly unlikely to recognize the health problems that the current system has. If the US government tells people that ultra-processed foods are good for you, and you have articles from the mainstream about how ultra-processed foods are good for you, and again, I mentioned some of those in past videos, articles where they have a dietitian going, yeah, ultra-processed foods can be good for you, depending on which ones. They're not all bad, etc. Try to defend the practice of eating a lot of them. And I can't stress enough how much I disagree with that narrative. This food is absolutely personal opinion. I'm not a medical expert. My opinion, they're absolutely making you sick. They're absolutely getting people to have comorbidities that make them more likely to die young. And we should make a change, both in terms of personal responsibility and making a change in your lifestyle, as well as a society, what is and isn't allowed in our food. I think government interference in our daily life is almost always inexcusable, but there are a few things that it should do. And for example, making sure that the food, that you see in the supermarket, that you don't have the lab to check the chemicals and nutrition value in it. So it absolutely should be nutritious and not poisonous for you. I call it false advertising, selling something as food that does not give you the things you need and instead makes you sick and feel bad and possibly impact your health negatively. Yes, I would absolutely call it a scam, and there definitely should be a level of government control over the quality of food, my personal take, because you can't check every single tomato and every single piece of beef that you, or chicken or whatever, that you purchase. You don't have the capability. And if you go and you have to check the brand of every single thing and find some websites where people might have made tests. It's unreasonable. It's absolutely unreasonable. Like 99% of people will not be doing it. So that's why we need government regulation of what goes into the food, in my opinion. And also, there's pesticides and such that deplete the nutrients in the food, or there are also processing methods that deplete the nutrients in the food. And so engaging in these, I don't know, put a warning label on it or something. This food contains zero or almost none nutrients that are good for you. So don't expect your body to be healthy if you depend on this for whatever it is that your body needs. Anyway, that's my opinion. I know that there is a push to put crickets and other bugs in the food instead. Maybe I'll make a video about that next. Which is absolutely going in the wrong way, my personal opinion. Your mileage might vary. Maybe you feel like crickets are delicious and nutritious, but I think it's a terrible proposition. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.